Hello, everybody. Here's another episode of Lone Oak Farm on Farm Sim 17. Uh, I kind of have a cold today, so hopefully this goes all right, but I'll try to have another episode for everyone, kind of like I've done on some of the other episodes. I've started with some pictures that we can kind of see the farm in real life before diving into the game, so I think I'll maybe try to do that here a little bit. Got the game all queued up. And maybe what I'll do is start on the map itself. I have it open in the editor, and I think I've commented before in here just how much attention to detail Bullet Bill and his friends had. And I don't know that I've remarked on this before, but I'm at the northwest, well, kind of in the midpoint. The main farm is over here. And this is a northwest corner of the map where you may be aware there's a road that comes in, a blacktop road, and you look off to the northwest here and you look at some of these fields and you see all this stuff over here. This is actual satellite data. This is exactly what it is in real life off the border of the map. And I haven't looked too much around the rest of the edges of the map preparing for this video, but I assume it's all the same. You look at this here, and I could pull up the satellite map to prove it on Google Earth, but there's no need. This is exactly as if it was taken from Google Earth. I have another uncle. This isn't on the map. A great uncle that lived in this home here for many years until he passed away. I have cousins that farm the land here. There was a neighboring farmer that farmed this property here and here. I have another great uncle that lives down here on the corner. I recognize all this, and again, just applaud Bullet Bill, Oxygen David, and those that worked on this for their attention to detail and making a place look as real as possible. But one of the things I wanted to show as we get down here onto the map, you'll notice a road kind of extends off, and somewhere in here there is a border. And I almost think Bullet Bill, when he made it, he set the invisible border perhaps here to where the player couldn't drive down here because there really wasn't any need. I think when I did some modding on the map for my own purposes, I ended up moving the border down here so the player could drive into here, and I kind of created an area for a placeable. And frankly, I did that only because we were playing on a server and we needed other things to do for the people that were in there. In real life, this is very much a field. So, um, yeah, that is what it is. I just chose to do that for purposes of the server. But one morning when I came up here to take a bunch of reference pictures for a Bullet Bill as he was creating the map, I started by driving up this particular road. It's called Sunnyview Road. Um, and kind of came up here and I started snapping pictures. Actually, I started snapping them along the way, clear back here, because at that moment, I wasn't sure just what all area a Bullet Bill would include in the map. So I took some pictures along here and all over. But as I came up the road, I just want to share with you some of these pictures. I believe, yeah, there's another road that goes off from here. Another blacktop road. It has a hairpin corner kind of up here and whatnot. Well, I took a picture maybe right about here, so that's kind of where I'll start. And again, it's on the same frosty morning. So this is that other road that kind of tees off into Sunnyview here. This is just outside the usable map area of the Lone Oak map. So there's just a couple barns here to the right. We'll finally get on to the Lone Oak map. I guess, taking this picture, one reason I stopped here is this place here has nostalgic, sentimental interest to me because when I first started working at Lone Oak, this was the very first field that I actually did some work in. It was, well, not late at night, but this is winter, so obviously the grass is dormant and has a frost cap on it, but it was close to harvest. It was during the time period when we would be windrowing the grass. laying it down, and we did all that at night. And I'll comment a little more on that, I think, when we start doing it in game. But the reason we cut it at night is because the dew is typically out, the stalks of the grass are tougher, and it holds on to the seed better. When you don't want to just cut it in the middle of the day, or the heat and all that would cause a lot of the seed to just shatter out on the ground, and you would lose it. It may replant itself, but that doesn't help you when you're trying to harvest it as a crop. So we would try to cut it at night to minimize that. So I have many memories of working all night long, driving a windrower, cutting the grass, and this was a very first field that I got to do it in. And in those days, the windrower had no cab on it. It was one of these old school. Oh, what was it? It was a John Deere 800 windrower. And maybe I'll just take a moment, just for kicks to see if I can look it up. John Deere 800 self-propelled windrower, and see if I can come up with, yeah, there it is. So when I look at the pictures of this is exactly what it was, that I drove on. It would have been a machine like this. Um, I think one of them, they had two of them at the time. One of them had duals, and the other had just a single wheel down there, as I recall. Uh, but let me see if I can get the, oh, nope, I can't really get a bigger picture. It had a, let me see if this will, just not giving a bigger picture. Maybe I can expand it here. It had a steering wheel on it, which was only for trim steering. And when I say trim, I mean you couldn't turn a wheelie out there in the field. It isn't set up quite the same way as windrowers are today, where everything is on the steering wheel and you turn it a little bit and it goes a long ways. But it had these sticks, which you can see here, or levers, two on for the operator, one on each side, and it was kind of like maybe some of the bumper cars you can ride at the fair, or some of even the lawnmowers that they have nowadays, where you can you can turn the thing on a dime. And that's basically how it was, in the field. When you turn the corner, you switch to using the sticks. So you pull back on the thing and kind of turn it that way. But while you're driving, just cutting for the windrow, you would use a trim steering, and it would turn just a little bit at a time. But if you really need to turn it quite a ways, you always had to revert to the sticks. And it was a standard cutting table with a draper belt. Yeah, let me see. Here's one that has it in there. And these were problematic. Well, of course, maybe the real problem was the operator, namely me. But these caused lots of trouble over the years. I think they've worked on the technology since, and there's lots of draper belts still in use. And these were fairly old machines, by the time I would have been driving them. But this is what we used to knock down the grass seed, and it would put it in some semblance of windrow to get it ready for combining. And I guess I just show those pictures to show kind of what I drove, and it all started in this particular field here. There was me and someone else was in there. I don't remember who the other gentleman was, but he was out there, I think, to make sure to keep tabs on me, to make sure I didn't screw anything major up. And I just had a blast. I mean, I have a memory of my dad even coming out there with me. I think I was, well, let's see, this would have been after yeah, I'd have been a freshman in high school. This would have been my first summer, and my father drove it to the field. I think they wanted to make sure I got there in one piece, and wasn't so excited that I drove it off the road. And Dad took me around, and at some point, I could still see him kind of through the mists of time, watching him jump off the machine. He didn't even have me stop, and seeing him wave goodbye as he went and headed home. And it was just, I don't know, I almost feel a rush about it, just reminiscing on it now, and seeing what all that started in terms of working up there. It was really, really exciting to me as a kid. And like I say, I hope every kid has opportunity to do something like that in life that they really, really want to do, and that's fun to them. Work doesn't have to be drudgery, it can be extremely satisfying. And granted, this was driving a machine. There's obviously going to be certain types of work that are exciting, more exciting than others. but I tell you, to a teenage kid back then, I was in hog heaven to be able to get to do that for the first time in this field here. Unfortunately, it was a good field. I don't recall hitting any rocks or having any obstacles. It was a smooth night getting it cut, and I really enjoyed doing it. And that particular field, by the way, is, maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe this wasn't, no, 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 I think I have it right. Or how is this? Maybe in real life, there isn't this row of trees. I think that was put in there just for map border. The field is actually open. Like if we zoom up here, this is the field we had the picture of. Here's the road. It's kind of a funny shaped field. It goes down over here and then it comes up top. There's a group of trees up here. Maybe it even comes over to here. Maybe that's the edge of the field. And then the field kind of partitioned and it continued down here onto the map that we have. But it kind of was in two pieces. When I started windrowing, we only did the top piece. I believe the bottom piece had already been done. And this part wraps kind of around. I don't think well, it's just hard to say. He had to do something to squeeze the map together as it is, but it just wraps around here and comes all the way up to almost the road here on this end. It's a really strange shaped field. And maybe if I can find, here, we'll just go look at it in real life. Figure that out. Here we go. Here's what that field looks like in real life. It was this one here. Here's a road going off. This is the one I windrowed here. Here's the break between the two fields. You can kind of see that other bit come over here. This part would barely be on the Lone Oak map. And then obviously went down over here. I think I've mentioned before, we always called this a schoolhouse field. It's fairly hilly. There was a schoolhouse up here my father went to when he was a little tyke. It's not there anymore. And I guess I would just say I enjoyed working on the fields the farm had, even for aesthetics. Yeah, this one here maybe is a typical square field, and I think farmers, as a general rule, are going to prefer the square fields because, hey, that's how you can get work done, and there isn't much horsing around and all that. But I always liked these funny shaped fields that had trees and other obstacles in there and were skinny and long or oblong shaped. Maybe they weren't efficient for farming, but they sure were more pleasing to the eye to look at. So I'm probably wasting everybody's time here just blabbing on about this. Let me go to the next picture, and I don't remember where in here. Maybe I'll just look at the picture and find out where it is. Okay, this is another picture. Here's one angle slightly towards a northwest. Here's a picture pretty much due north. That's the field, that I first started windrowing in. I think you can tell it continues. And then this is a little bit further. Looking back at that field, you can kind of see the narrow area coming down and the rest of this is a schoolhouse field kind of bending on around here. So on the map, that would be roughly, I must have stopped probably in this driveway. So it's probably looking kind of at this angle here. Yeah, give or take, that's probably about right. There's even the attention to detail bullet bill put in the sign here, noting that there is a corner coming up. It doesn't have 40 miles an hour on there, what it is in real life, but I give him props for putting in the sign where it appears and all the way down to the power poles, representing those on the road where they would be. So that's kind of what it looks like looking down over the hill. I have another one, looking straight ahead from that spot. So now this is fully on the Lone Oak Farm map. This would be kind of looking like this, straight out. I mean, look at that. Even the shape of the trees down here, I think that's exactly how the tree line goes. It kind of curves down that way, or you see kind of the line of it. So again, just props and admiration to attention to detail on this map. Well, actually, maybe I should cycle the picture here. Get another one. Now this is looking due east. Well, kind of east. Maybe it's almost northeast from the spot where I stopped my car. Once again, I'll come into the map and just show that would be looking kind of this way here. I think I've told the story about these signs here for sale. Yeah, I think this. No, let me just grab it here just for kicks. Maybe I can move it up. There it is. Yeah, yeah, it no longer has the phone number on there, which was apparently a real phone number. It just cracked me up when Bullet Bill was telling me about this, that people were really calling that number, which was to some realtor office. And I think that's just a funny phenomenon. I can't imagine that you would just see something in a game and assume it's true. And I see here there's actually a web address here, the Kinsey group. I'm sure there probably have been some that have tried to look up that web address before figuring out it doesn't exist and never will exist. Just kind of some of the funny things and that probably tickle the map maker's funny bone. So maybe a picture or two more and then we'll switch over to the game. Okay, now this is getting to the gravel road. Well, it isn't. It's only partially gravel anymore. Down where you would turn up the road to head towards the Lone Oak Farm. So this is depicted looking west at that small little field in there that's kind of on a hillside slope. So that would be down over here. Right by this road here, where it says Farm Avenue. Farm. I seem to think that was the name of one of the guys that helped make the models for the map, including these power poles and maybe some of the buildings up on the farm. And I remember Farm. It's been a little while since I've conversed with him, but there was a thread that was started on FSUK back in the day. And anybody, when you nose around on the internet a little bit, we tend to use pseudonyms or nicknames versus our real name. I've kind of always used my real name. I've felt comfortable with that. But on FSUK, there was someone that had the nickname of Farm, and I believe he's someone in the UK. And apparently, when he was a little tyke, I don't know if this was whenever he would go to his grandparents' farm or just somebody's farm, he always called it the farm. So that kind of became his nickname, and then he chose to put it in to use it as his nickname in FSUK. I kind of think his name maybe was Lone Wolf, or I just don't remember. I maybe shouldn't say. Um, but it's kind of neat to see that there in real life. This is 117th Avenue, I believe. And of course, Oxygen View is a nod to Oxygen David. But this is kind of the view from here that we saw in this picture here. So that's kind of how it appears in real life, almost down to the placement of the tree. And I ended up, again, because this was a server map, I opted to install in the map up here with my own personal modding this compost place, just to have something else to do in game. It seemed like a decent place to put it. But no, it is not there in real life. In real life, this is just a small little field. And, I think in uh, uh, in game here, this is where you would take logs and wood chips and whatnot. And in real life, there's just a home up here. This was a neighbor, and they also owned a farm, and their farm here was back behind their house in these buildings. And I think that was a Ritchie family, and so not a lumber company. But again, there's all these expectations when you build a map to put various things in there. So this is where Bullet Bill chose to put things for lumber and timber. But this road very much exists in real life. And I say it's a road, it's private. It's a gravel drive, if you will, getting back there. But I gotta say, I mean, this is where neighbors, I'm assuming this is a world over. Um, Farmers are an interesting breed of people. They're fiercely independent as a general rule in how they make their decisions. They can be highly competitive, as they compete for real estate with one another. But in terms of general neighborliness, I've never seen anything in my life quite the same as farmers knowing how to work together. Whether it's a tragedy that happens, I think I mentioned in another video, like when my grandmother died, and neighboring farmers coming and rallying around my grandfather to help him get his crop in while he dealt with the emotions of losing his wife, or just simple stuff. This is a private driveway through here, but my grandfather's farm, my uncle's farm, Lone Oak, which is way down here, you'd have occasionally big combines, and they farmed ground down here, and it was too tight, really, to take a combine down this road. There's a lot of tree obstacles. So the neighbor said, why don't you just drive through our property here? And you can come on down our lane and drive out over here, and you don't have all the obstacles to whack your machinery as you go by it. So, just simple stuff like that where neighbor helps neighbor. And I have fond memories of that growing up also. Anyway, I've blabbed on here for, boy, this is almost half an hour. About ready to terminate the video. So I should probably go to the game here and try to pretend to do a little bit of work. I think what we were doing, yeah, I had this. I'll just, oh yes, good. I still had this. I'll get him going. Let's see if I think I'm on field. I'll drive it. Please don't just turn. Keep on your course. There you go, buddy. That's good. Alright, so we'll keep him going on that. I'll just cycle over. I think I parked all this machinery last time. I stopped this guy right on the end. Oops, he's pulling his tines out. Like he's making a fair bit of headway here. Maybe since I need something to do, I'll just drive him manually in here. In real life, for a lot of this kind of work, I don't know that we wouldn't necessarily be pulling it up this hill quite like this. It gets very steep in here, and probably what we would have done beyond a simple once around maybe probably would have just gone across the hill to make it a little bit easier to pull some of the heavy equipment. But I don't know, the tractors seem to get larger and larger over time and more capable, and they kind of seem to start ignoring a lot of hills. I hope I'm taking this out, but that is stubble, right? Yes. Kind of sometimes with the angle that I play on it looks more like it's growing. And please, everybody, see, I was pretty embarrassed about this. And I think it took 4 episodes for me to realize that somehow the lone oak tree had disappeared out of the bloomin' map. And I'm not sure what happened. I look at the copy that I had, and I open it in the editor, and it has a tree in there. So I checked it. It's supposed to render. I mean, it's just a normal tree like any other. So I'm not sure what happened to where take it in game and the tree disappeared, but it did. Here's another example of a field with character. I mean, this is pretty well how it is in real life, although it kind of is downhill on the map here, kind of coming into this section. It really goes back up. This section here is another hill, rather than being flat, kind of as depicted in the map. But I just love all the nooks and crannies in these hills, and the aesthetics of getting to farm work in them. As I think about this particular field, I know I've shared a number of memories in here, and lots of lessons growing up in learning how to work and all that, and also some stories along the way that I don't even really feel good about sharing, but they're true. I have a memory in this field with one of my brothers, and I have four brothers. It was myself and the next one down. And we were visiting Lone Oak Farms. I don't remember how old we were. We would have been grade school kids. Old enough to start to learn how to work. Young enough maybe that we didn't fully appreciate work yet for what it could be. And it was in this field here, this very field. I don't even remember what they had grown there. I seem to think maybe it was a year they had wheat in it and was straw, but it may have been grass bales. I really just don't remember. So, we came out, we were excited, we wanted to see the tractors and all this and that, and instead, what they were doing out here that particular day we came out is they were picking up bales out of the field. And I think they had this set up. I don't even know what they're called, these bale lifts that you would take alongside a truck, and the driver of the truck would aim for a bale, and it was ground driven. It wasn't even, and it would basically convey a bale from the ground up to the truck, and then there'd be a couple guys on the truck stacking the bales. Well, there's bales all over, as we know, and what they asked my brother and I to do was to take a couple rows of bales and roll them together, so it could be more efficient. And it was something we should have been able to do. Only thing is we didn't. They kind of went back where we were, right around the corner, I think, picking up bales, and my brother and I were on this side of the hump. And once we didn't see them anymore, well, he and I kind of took off and we headed for the house. And we left them in the lurch. And I look back on that, you can say, well, you were just kids. I don't remember how old we were. Somewhere in grade school, maybe second, third, fourth grade, somewhere in there. Um, but I still feel kind of bad about that. That was just silly. We could have worked a little bit, but instead we kind of bummed out and we just went to the house. And maybe grandma maybe grandma didn't know. I don't know. This was my first grandma. She died, when I was in the eighth grade, but she was still living at the time. Well, she welcomed us there and gave us some, cold drink and snacks to eat. And so I don't know. Maybe she saw that we just got tired too soon and we came in. And to their credit, I mean, knowing my uncles for the kind of guys they are, I don't remember them ever giving us a hard time over it. Um, and knowing them now, I would have expected them to. So maybe, just maybe, this was their way of saying, giving us something a little bit hard to do that they knew we would eventually get tired of and then just leave, and then they wouldn't have to keep track of us and be responsible for us anymore. That could be it too. And this was their way of just getting us to leave and leave them alone so they could get some work done. Oops. Because I've been there, done that. There'll be people visit the harvest field or people that visit you when you're trying to work. And depending on what you're doing, you may need to have every second, every moment of time that you have to get your job done. And when someone just comes and visits, all it does is hinder you from being productive. I remember that particular in the grass seed cleaner, where there was just a ton of manual labor, and in order to keep the machines going, you had to do things just like clockwork, whether it's putting seed in or taking it off and that kind of thing. And if someone came in and was just jabbering at you the whole time because they were interested in it or whatever, it's like, can you just leave so I can get some work done? And I know that sounds very ungracious, but I imagine if there's anybody here that is a farmer, or you don't even have to be a farmer. It isn't that you want to be rude. It's just, you have a certain limited period of time to get your work done, and it isn't always helped, when someone else is there taking up your time. Oh, hey, look at that. Achievement unlocked. Make them grow. Well, I don't know what I'm making grow. I'm ripping stuff out here, so But I'll take the award. Recently I changed my computer here, so this one here is I had to totally reinstall the game and everything, so I guess it resets all the achievements, maybe. So, well, but we're making short work of this, and I think of this. This is my 6th episode that I'm recording here, and I haven't even got this field finished. I'm taking so much time and having so much fun reminiscing, looking at pictures and whatnot. So I hope that's okay. But I know there's a lot of Let's Play videos out there with people on the Lone Oak map, and which I gotta say really tickled my funny bone. I couldn't believe the number of people that, well, and part of it's just a tribute to Bullet Bill, right? I mean, he's just outstanding at the work he puts into these maps, and so of course, as popular as his maps were, that's probably why there was so much public attention given to it. But it's just for a while, like when he released the map, to go onto YouTube and just do a simple search for Lone Oak and just see, at the beginning scores and scores, and now it's hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of videos of people that have farmed on this same place, where I did a lot of my growing up. Maybe I'll, oh, there's a good rock. Perfectly round one too, which I don't remember very many round rocks coming out when I was in my growing up years, but it is what it is. Hey, is that guy done? I kind of think, I'm gonna hire this guy, and I'm gonna switch over to the fertilizer dude. There we go. Well done, bud. And it appears we have just a little bit left, so that's good to know that a single tank load, if you will, covers both fields. So I'm gonna have to watch on this as we grow, because uh, these two fields here, field 44 and 35, which are the only two fields we own, we're gonna harvest grass seed from them. So I'm gonna have to watch this to make sure I get additional fertilizer application on in a timely way, so we'll have a decent crop. But as I've just finished the fertilization here, I think maybe what I'll do is call the episode. I look at it, I don't know how 30 some minutes have already gone by, but they have, so I think from here I'll just bid everybody a goodbye, and we'll see you again on the next episode. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.